Hi, welcome to Snails and Fairy Dust. I am Darcy. It has been a very long time since I've posted a new full-length video, and I'm sorry for that. But after I published the book in June, I just needed a bit of a break, and it was summer vacation, so I needed to spend time with my family. But I'm back. I promise to post at least one video a week until Christmas, and then I'll probably take another little break. Um, and it's also been a really long time since I've shown my face on here. I think I've only done it once. And I'm trying to get over that. But I came on today because I have received the most amazing messages over the summer on my videos. And it's just like so heartwarming. I can't even believe it. Like I want to meet all of you and have a big party and like we could bead together. It's been so nice to hear people telling me they're beading for the first time, or they found it really therapeutic or like calming, or they're beading with friends. Like, you guys don't even know, like, this is the whole reason I do this, because I think it's so good to have creative outlet for ourselves, and it's so good for our brains and our hearts and our souls, and like everyone we are in a room with, like, let's just bead and let's create things. Like, beading's not your thing, I don't care, but make something. I think it's important. So today, as far as making something, we're going to make these earrings. I have purposely designed them with round beads today. These are like round size 11 Miyukis, because I know that delicate beads are expensive, and I feel like round beads, everybody probably has some round beads around their house already, hopefully, and it's an easy way to get started. So I have switched from my delicas for today. Maybe I'll do a few more projects in the future with the round beads. If you are using round beads, it's still important that you use quality round beads, because when you are weaving sort of like small, intricate weaving work like this, having a bead that's just the slightest little millimeter off, half of a millimeter off, will throw off all of your work, and you don't want that. So try to find the best quality seed beads you can. Make sure they're glass. Japanese make the best. Miyuki, obviously, I love Miyuki beads, but Toho make great beads. There's Czech Preciosa beads. Those are really high quality beads. And you will find that round beads are going to be less expensive than Delica's cylindrical shaped beads. So with that being said, get yourself some beads. Let's do this. It's a fast project. Will come together really quickly, and before you know it, you could have a whole new set of earrings to go with your fall outfits and your winter outfits and whatever outfits to sell to your friends, make Christmas presents. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so let's take a look at our supplies. I have these Miyuki round beads in size 11 in 4 colors that I was into, and then I just made my own little mix here. You could also buy a lot of seed beads in a mix already, which will save you some money when you're getting started. I am using a nylon beading thread. This is KO beading thread. I also like Miyuki's beading thread. I won't be using Fireline or Wildfire for this project. I'm just trying to keep the cost down for those new beaders. I have ear wires. You could use whatever kind of ear wires you have. And I have these wire guards. And I have a size 12 beading needle. I also have scissors for cutting thread. And I have a pair of pliers. So to get started, I am going to cut about 5 feet of my beading thread. And with nylon beading thread, you need to stretch it. See how it's sort of curvy? You want to get those curves out of it. And you'll feel it's a bit stretchy. So that needs to be the first thing you do so it doesn't stretch out later. Okay, now we're going to add a stopper bead. I'm using a different color bead here just so you don't get confused. And I'm just going to slide that down towards the end of my tail. I'm going to leave about a 3 to 4 inch tail, loop my needle around, and come back up through it. This is going to get pulled off later. We're just putting it there in the beginning to keep your first beads from falling off. Now, we're going to start with this top part, which is peyote stitch. And to do that, we need 12 beads. So pick up 12 beads on your needle, like so. And then we're going to slide those down to the stopper bead and then secure that on your finger. And then we're going to pick up 1 bead. Now we're going to skip the first bead, and then we're going to bring our needle through the second bead. Like that. And it should make this little triangle here. We'll see in a second. There we go. That's what we want it to look like. And then we pick up another bead, skip one bead, and bring your needle through the next bead. Like that. And we're going to keep going all the way across, skipping one bead and adding a bead. So we pick up a bead, skip the next bead, bring your needle through the following bead. Like that. And you end up with all these little stacked triangles. So let's keep going across like that. Pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through the next one. And again. So pick up a bead, skip a bead, go through the next one. And one more time, I believe. Yes. Skip a bead, pick up a bead, go through the next one. And then we're at the end of that row. And what you've actually done is created your first 3 rows, actually. So from here on out, we're just going to be adding 6 beads per row. So I took off that end bead because I don't really need it anymore. You can leave it as long as you want. It might help you. Like you see here, it's already slipped for me, but I am used to that. So I'm going to pick up a bead for the next row. I have flipped my work around and I'm working in the opposite direction now. So I pick up a bead. I'm going to go through these beads that are sort of up, like up beads, just like that. I always like to flip my work over so you're working away from yourself. You pick up another bead, go through that next up bead, the beads that are sort of sticking up. That's what you're working with. So you want to put beads in between the beads that are sticking up, picking up another bead. And we're going to go through that again. The next up bead, like so. And we pick up another one, go through the next up bead. And again. And one more time. There we go. And that's how you're going to work your peyote stitch. Super easy. This is the hardest part of this entire project, I think. Yeah, it's pretty much the hardest part. Zipping up the stitch is a bit tricky, but you can totally do it. So keep working back and forth across your rows like this, adding beads in between the up beads until you get a nice little woven square. It's going to be 12 rows you're working all together. And in a second here, I'm going to show you what it looks like when I get to that point. But just keep working it back and forth across and take your time and make sure you are keeping your thread tight so that you don't have gaps between the beads. You shouldn't be able to see string in between your weaving. It takes a while to sort of master that tension, but if you go slow and just sort of pull after each one, you will see that you can do it. Now, here we are. I am about to finish my 12th row, and then I'm going to show you how you can sort of test out that you've had enough. So I'm going to add this last one in. And then if you take a look, I'm going to count these first I'm going to show you, this is how it's going to close, right? But if you look at the little edges and you count the beads, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how I know I have enough. And on the other side, I should also have 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's how you can make sure you have the right size. And now we're going to close up this little circle. In these little up beads on one side are the opposite of the up beads on the other side. So when we put them together, it makes a sort of zipper, which you'll see in a second. So I'm going to come through the first up bead on the opposite side of where my needle is. So I bring it through that up bead, and then I cross over to the other side and bring it through that up bead. And then I cross back over, and bring it through one up bead. So we're zigzagging back and forth across. And then I cross over, bring it through the next up bead. And the next one. And just keep going till you get to the end. If you've watched my ring making tutorial, you totally already know how to do this. But for the newbies, this is how you do it. And once you do this, you're going to be able to make the rings really easily. So check that video out next. So I'm going back and forth, back and forth. I'm almost there. I love this color bead, by the way. It makes me want to eat it. Okay, so now we're in the last one. And when we pull that tight, it closes everything up. And I'm just going to like round it out because it was flat. I was holding it flat. And when I round it out with my fingers, I have this nice little tube. Now I'm going to just take my needle and go back through that little zipper line the other way to reinforce it. So that is going to happen fast, but basically you're just going to go back through those beads one by one and get your needle back to the other side. And, take your time here. The beads are glass. It's the worst thing in the world to break a glass bead after you've done all this work. So take your time, get through the other side, and I will see you in a second. Okay, now we are going to add the wire guard. If you do not have a wire guard, don't freak out. You could also put 6 beads across the top, but we're going to use a wire guard for now. And I am going to put my needle through one side of the wire guard, and then I'm going to come down through the bead exactly opposite of there. Now, if you don't have a wire guard, you would be putting 6 beads on and then threading through the opposite side like so. But it would be exactly the same, except you would have beads there instead of the wire guard. Okay, so I've come through that opposite bead, and now I want to reinforce this. So I'm going to go down through the bead to the right below it. And then I'm going to come up through the bead to the left, right below it. And then I'm going to come back up through that original bead and through the wire guard. And then down through the opposite side. There we go. And now I am going to take my needle and I want to get it all the way down to the bottom of this little tube, because then we could use the same thread to add our fringe. This is another convenience of using just the one thread, is that we don't have to switch threads in the middle. Having some trouble finding the bead here. But also, usually I use the stiffer thread when I'm making sort of a brick stitch earring. But with this earring, we don't need the stiffness because it's this small tube and it really holds its shape on its own. So I thought I would just use the one thread, less supplies for people to buy, and it just makes it easier because you're not having to start a new thread for your fringe. And the nylon thread is always better for fringe because it is more, it moves better. It has a nicer flow to it than a Fireline or Wildfire beading thread. Okay, so now I'm here at the bottom of this tube and everything's looking very cute. And I want to take my needle off and I need to get rid of this tail, the original tail, so it's not in my way. So I'm just going to thread that tail through my needle. And then I'm going to weave that back up into my work, and let's get that out of our way. So in order to do that, I am going to take it up a few beads, and then I will find 2 sort of neighboring beads next door to each other and wrap around them a couple times. So like this. So I'm going up through the one bead, down through the neighbor bead, up through the one bead, down through the neighbor bead, and that is going to create tension to keep it from coming unraveled. And I'm going to do that another time just to make sure it's extra secure, and then clip it. And now we are finally ready to add our fringe. I am adding 40 beads for each row of fringe. You could obviously do whatever color and whatever count you want to. I was just thinking about the colors. And use whatever colors you want to, obviously. So I've added my 40 beads, and now I'm going to pick up an end bead, and then I'm going to take my needle. There's the end bead. Sorry for this, just didn't focus. It suddenly got really dark here in England. And then I'm going to take my needle and bring it back up through all of the beads in the fringe. And that little end bead that you just added at the end is holding everything there. So we want to go through all of these beads. So sorry about the camera focus. And then when we get to the top, you will see how we add the next row. So we're almost there. I swear the camera gets better. There we go. So we're going to exit through the same bead we started this row of fringe from. So we come all the way through, bring your needle all the way through, try not to poke yourself like I just did. And then we're going to come down through the neighboring bead. I am going to go through the neighboring bead to the right, but you could go to the left, whatever you want to do. So just bring it right down through that bead. And then you're going to add 40 more beads. This is easy peasy. I tell you, you're going to have so many of these earrings before you know it. Okay, so now we pick up, do the same thing. I'm just going to show you this one more time. Pick up our end bead, bring the needle back up through all of those beads and through the original bead that you started on, and then bring it down through the neighboring bead through to the right. There we go. We have our second row of fringe. And always sort of test your fringe. You know, if you need to pull it, make sure it's not too loose, not too tight. You want your fringe to be nice and flowy. And so you can adjust it as you're going. Don't be afraid to sort of give them a tug and get them to where you want to. And now I'm finally on my 6th row of fringe here. Do the same exact thing. I add my end bead. And this time I'm just going to take my needle up into the peyote stitch beadwork. And that is where I will end my thread. I think these are such fun, easy beginner intro to sort of intricate beading. And there's so many variations of this you can do once you have this down. I mean, it's the sky's the limit, really. And like I said, you'll be really good at rings after this because you'll understand how they're made. And so I am just taking my needle up through the beadwork. Some people like to make knots. I don't like to make knots because I just don't like how they look, and I think it's unnecessary. So you make this tension by just weaving around. I mean, I do it several times. I've never had any earrings come undone. If I was making a ring or a bracelet, then I might do something different because they take a lot more sort of wear and tear than an earring does. But this is totally works for me. And so I am finishing that off, and then I'm going to give it a clip, and then I will show you how I add these ear wires that I have, and then we'll be pretty much done. So I'll see you in a second. Okay, now we are ready to add the ear wire. I love these leverback ear wires. They have a little opening. It's an open jump ring at the bottom. So you can just bend it with your pliers, bend it either away from you or towards you, not out from side to side. Just bend it just as much as you need. Never go more. You don't want to weaken the metal. And then you close it, and there you go. If you have a French style ear wire, you could just do the same thing. And here we go. Look, the sun came back out. And so I swear it's like the same day, but it looks completely different because the sun was being like really bizarre today. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you'll stick around for more videos. I have a lot of cool things planned for this fall and winter. So see you soon, and please subscribe to my channel, and thank you for being here. All right, bye.